Welcome back to the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. Welcome back, my cavalry. Welcome back, everybody who's up to something that's just not going to give in to the defeat of the past challenges. You're up to it. You are the cavalry, because they ain't coming. You're it. All right. So, conversation for today. First off, let's hit the question of the day, or the thought of the day. Not the question of the day, but the thought of the day here. How to leave your partner. I've noticed as I keep sitting back, and it is so consistent throughout all social medias. Relationships are constantly being discussed. Constantly. People are constantly discussing things in multiple ways about relationships and about how they don't work or how people are wrong or how they screwed somebody over and all the rest of this stuff. Well, you can do, like in business, as far as like running a company, I do exit strategies and our exit interviews. It's very similar to the interviewing process, but just think the other direction. You're leaving the company. Let's go through some of these conversations. I got you on payroll. Let's talk, man. Help me understand what I can do to critique and develop this company to make it better. Exit interviews. Same again. You do interviews on the way into the company to be hired. Well, let's do something on the way out. You often get a lot of honesty out of somebody on their way out. You don't get quite as much honesty from somebody on the way in, though. Anyway, so in the relationships, how to leave somebody and how to leave your partner, I find that the majority of people just completely cut them off. They just say, you know what, it's over. I'm not doing it. This thing is dead. And you completely avoid it. Now, I understand why people would do that because there's a lot of very sensitive emotions there. There's also the fear of falling back in and repeating the challenges of whatever it was that you were dealing with because, hey, that happens too because you're not quite done yet. But you've had enough of an offense or enough offenses that tells you that you're just not in the right relationship for you. And it's where you throw in the towel. Understandable. That's also a measurement of your maturity, but it's not necessarily a negative. It's just, that's another thing about it too, is like if you're not mature, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a negative. It just means you haven't had much exposure to it with the intent to actually grow and develop in it. That's it. Uh, so it's the same thing as like people like to say whenever, they use ignorance as a pejorative. It's like, oh, you're ignorant. Ignorance is innocence. It means you're not exposed to a specific information. That's it. You have not had a certain experience yet. That's what ignorance is. But people like to use it in some sort of weaponized fashion to make some sort of a negative about it. Just lack of experience, man. Same thing with maturity. You can be immature. But that's also typical when you're older and you're immature is that there was an avoidance somewhere in your life, but that is a declaration of avoidance. I'm not mature here because I've been avoiding this. Doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make you anything other than you have some arrested development. But it was your arrested development. It was somewhere along the lines you made up your mind to actually not develop there. Often it was you just didn't think there was another option. You just said, you know what, I'm going to quit here because I don't know, it's too hard to deal with and I have no guidance, no direction. And it seems pointless to continue trying to deal with this. Close that door, lock that box. So that creates a degree of immaturity. Problem is that it becomes a weight that you drag along with you, and eventually that thing needs to come up. It's the elephant in the room, basically. It's not that it comes up by somebody else calling it out as much as it is a situation brings it to the surface, and you say, "Shit, I got to deal with this," and now I'm ill-equipped to deal with it. That's being immature. For another clarity piece, because this is so incredibly common, is when I talk about the maturity project, I hear often, but I have so much fun being immature. And I'm like, you can have so much fun being mature. The difference between maturity and immaturity is the insecurities that take you out of play. That's it. When you mature yourself, you can stay and play. And you don't need to worry about the insecurities that make you feel like you're going to be acting in the wrong way and something society would deem inappropriate, right? Like if you're acting like an 8-year-old, because I have a 2.5-year-old, right? So if I'm acting like a child because I'm playing with my son, I don't have an insecurity that takes me out of it. I just keep playing, man. I'm having a good time that's because of maturity, developing myself so that I don't find that to be something I need to worry about. I'm not worried about somebody thinking I don't look good at it. I'm like, no, man. If you're gonna watch me, you're gonna watch a father having a great time with his son. That's what you'll get out of it. So, all right. maturing yourself through leaving your partner is, it takes a lot of courage initially, because our society is not set up for this. Your support systems throughout society, because this has become the social norm, is who's wrong in this, and how do we make you feel better by putting that person down. That person's a real asshole. That person's a piece of shit. That girl, that she's a bitch. Whatever it is that really becomes the way of trying to come to your friend or the person you're wanting to support's aid, and then you give them pieces that try to tell them that they're a better person than the other one, so that they can feel better about overcoming them and separating themselves. Right? The bonds that tie you together are being severed, right? You're separating them. When you go to the avoidance method, you're trying to cauterize them as much as you can. In previous episodes in this channel, they go back to growing up in the wildest suburbia, which is a previous show. It was another show, but still basically the same thing, just a different title. I talked about the blue flame. And the blue flame is where you go back, you just start cauterizing all memories that you had with that person because of the moment you realize that person, betray you or whatever it is that you use as justification for doing such a thing. And then you start throwing things into Pandora's box, because I don't ever want to deal with this again, that again, before you know it. You've loaded up Pandora's box and you've taken all the really, really fun and desirable experiences and you've used the blue flame to burn them out, man. You cauterize the hell out of that stuff. You're trying to eradicate it from your experience so that you don't go back and think about it in any way, and that person truly is a thing of the past to you. They're no longer of use in your future or your present moment. It's just kill them off. It's the blue flame. If you want more on that, I did. That was during my last. That was a couple years ago that I did that. Almost 3 years ago. Actually, almost exactly 3 years ago. And it was a interesting experience that I was going through at the time. So I got some wonderful insights because that's the way I do this stuff. I learn for the desire and my curiosity that leads me, as well as I learn as a teacher because I want to be able to make sure that I give the details necessary to teach it. So I'm paying attention to a lot, which gives me an advantage when it comes to learning because I'm not just learning for me, I'm learning for other people. So they say that makes it easier and more effective to learn. So, all right. So as far as this goes, how do you leave your partner? Well, you can go through the process. You have every single experience that you've had. By the way, I'm writing 2 different workbooks. One of them is how to leave your partner. The other one is how to create. You figure out exactly what type of relationship you want. And if you want a long-term relationship that is not just based for comfort, but for life, then power couples. So from the superficial, I don't really care. It's been a long time since somebody's touched me. I'm feeling that I have a very deep need for physical intimacy. Can you be that person for right now? We'll make this thing work. It's like friends with benefits kind of thing. That's the superficial level. Hell, you don't even have to be friends. You just benefits with somebody. Like I don't even know. We don't even hang out. Don't even know who this person is. But they've been touching me intimately, and they're bringing that degree of satisfaction. That's one side of it. The other side of it is where you've got somebody who is not a partner in crime. I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. I'm more of a fan of the partner in power couples. Power couple is I have these strengths, you have those strengths. These are my goals, and then you have your goals. And then you discuss those things in such a way that you understand where your partner is, where your partner has been, and where your partner wants to go, and they know that of you, and the two of you have such a representation that your relationship has real tangible value, not just the I feel nice when I'm around this person and I call them this and I hold them to these specific standards. This is I make you the better person that you want to be because you're making me the better person that I want to be, and we are supporting each other in this. You truly are my person. That's what a power couple is. It's also saying, I want to create this type of business. And now the two of you work on what it takes in order to create that business. You're researching things. You're looking into things. You're bringing your skill sets. You're developing each other. You know where each other's weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and you know how to help develop, so you're rounding them out. There's a lot to that particular education when it comes to that, because there is the I values, which is what you need for yourself. The we values which is what you and your partner need in order to call it a relationship. And then the all values which is how does the world receive you guys, and how do you plan to express yourself into the world. So there's the I, we, and all. I borrowed that from Paul Chek from some of his information and educations that he's put out there, but I used that in conjunction with the education that I developed and am developing for the maturity and dating. So now leaving somebody also takes something. You know, um, I know someone that decided that they wanted to do counseling to leave their husband. And this person was wanting to make sure that when she left her husband, she was doing it in such a mature way that there was no carryover that would have her increase the likelihood of relapsing and going back to him after taking this step. And she wanted to make sure that the corridors of all of the attachment pieces, all of the bonding that they've had, because they had a 20-year marriage, how to completely get to the point of understanding that they're untangling their lives, and they were doing it in such a way that, or she was doing it in such a way that she was complete in each one of those areas, so that when she went through that process with him, that they would both fully understand why it's going on, and it was a way to grow together as they grew apart. It's a very mature way of doing it, because it's spending 20 years with somebody. That person is a fixture of your life. It's not take that person completely out of your life. It's a fixture of your life. So how do you honor that, and you don't just make them the ex and then have stories about them that you tell endlessly to other people that help give you some sort of rapport build off the other person being, degraded of some sort. So unfortunately, I saw a lot of that, and it still continues with my mother about my father. So it gives me more of a, there's so many consequences that come with that type of behavior. It goes to multiple different levels. I mean, there's myself being a child in that experience, but I can imagine for the other people that are enrolled in that conversation. And I'm not saying my mother's a bad person for that either. That's just a maturity thing. And I'm not saying she's bad because she's immature. She hasn't had anybody to develop her in that area. And I'm her son, so it's a little different to take anything from me in that way. So, all right. So that being said, there is a way to leave your partner. The thought of the day does not have a conclusion yet, because I'm working on it. Now, I have a pretty decent conclusion, but that's not the intention for the thought of the day. The thought of the day is just to get you to think, because that's not the substance for today's video, although I have near 12 minutes worth of conversation about this. Today's subject's actually different than that. No. But the point of it is just something to think about. Put a comment in the comment section if you have something to actually be a part of this part of the video. But other than that, we're going to move into the next part of it. But you can leave your partner. It's just a matter of you can leave your partner in a mature way where you do have that depth of accommodation that they have been a part of your life, and the depth of respect that it's not that somebody needs to be the enemy because a relationship ends. It's a very mature way of going about it. All right. Today's conversation is we grow through what we go through, and this is intentional for you, because ultimately we get everything and anything we deserve. Now, with me saying that, here's something to keep in mind. You have a genetic hand that you're dealt. You have no say-so in the genetic hand. You're just given this genetic opportunity that makes up who you are. You got that from your parents and your ancestors. If you have little say-so about that. Now, science is going, it does continue to look into the, gene activation or deactivation or inhibition. There's a lot that's out there when it comes to the research. It's really pretty interesting to think that, even though you have this genetic hand doesn't mean that these things are going to be active. Some of the interesting things are you have no cancer in your family, but all of a sudden you have cancer, something like that. Or you have a family history of cancer, but you live your entire life, you don't get it. Why? If it runs in the genes, is it not supposed to be something that you get, or what's the probability of it? Those kind of things. So it's pretty fascinating because it goes about lifestyle choices. It goes about not just the food that you eat and the environment you put yourself in, but the way you think. It's a lot when it comes to that. I'm not going to speak too much more about that. Just know that information is out there. Look into it. It's just, I would say use a different search engine like DuckDuckGo is preferable over Google just because Google is ridiculously biased. And sure, you might not have any bias in that particular category, but I'm not a fan of Google at all. Same thing. Yeah, I know I'm on YouTube, but I'm not a fan of the censorship that they put out there because of the way that they are about things. And some point in time, I'll be seen as the enemy because I'm trying to get my work is to get people to just mature, develop yourself. I don't have a political bias, but yet it's seen as a political bias because of the conservative values of mature yourself. But in case you need it, you haven't heard it before, I'm an independent. Registered that way. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. None of that. I'm just an independent, man. So, all right. So with that, I went on a little bit of a tirade simply because people are like, how is that anyway associated with politics? That's because I'm speaking about things that actually develop individuals into becoming more mature, and that is often associated with one particular political party. Not so much the other. One side encourages victimhood. The other one is grab yourself by the bootstraps. Come on, you got to go, man. You got to grow. So, yeah. So as far as that goes, you grow through what you go through. You have got everything in life that you deserve. Exclude all genetics. You may be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but how you respond to being in the wrong place at the wrong time is exactly what you deserve. As far as a fated direction in life, like the day you die, that is not in the wheelhouse of this conversation, because that is depending on your religious position, if you have one or if you don't. If it is, well, God chose for you to die at this time, then God chose for you to die at this time. That's the way to look at it. It is not about whether you deserve it or not. It doesn't mean you can comprehend it. That's not this conversation that I'm having. I'm just giving that as a little piece of information for that. I'm not speaking about it outside of that. That is something that is another conversation that I'm not having right now. Conversation I'm having right now is you are the accumulation of all the decisions you've ever made in your life. All of the outcomes of those decisions that you've made and how you thought about it all. So it's interesting how you can sit back and it's as simple as the rain, right? You're like, you know what? I'm a homeowner and, I want it to rain because my grass is really in need of it. Okay, well, you need grass to grow and rain is required. Rain, sunlight, right? You got to have that in order for grass to grow. Well, if you got nothing but sunlight, well, you reduce the conditions for grass to flourish, right? But you're sitting there looking out the window going, man, this is just a crap day. Now, let's say your attachment is about your grass growing, but your attachment is you just got off the phone with your friends. And everybody's like, dude, we're going to go out on the boat today, and then we're going to go to the beach. We've got a cooler full of alcohol. We've got attractive people going. We got our new speakers and stuff we're going to be listening to. We're just going to have an all-out fun day. Get your sunscreen. Get your hat and your sunglasses. Man, we're going to go have some fun. And then the rain comes. Well, one version of you, the homeowner that needs the grass to grow, would be, wow, that's fantastic. Thank God it finally rained. The other one is, really, of all days, today, you want to rain. I got all the stuff in the car, man. I've got the ice. I got everything. It's going to melt. It's ruined. I got to call them and be like, hey, I don't think we're going to be able to do this today. Or you get the call and like, hey, man, the boat trip's off. It's going to rain. You're like, man, today is crap. Exact same day. The difference is what you wanted and what your attachments were. That has a much deeper value. That can be much more complex, but that is a gift to give to you, so you can work through through that process using that as a framing tool to say, hey, you know what is it on the other side of this if I was dealing with this? The hardships you go through whenever you go through things like a breakup. On the first end of it or the front end of it, it sucks for both people. It does. It's never without sucking for both people. If both people cared about each other, it's never without sucking. Because you got to go through that. You have to make up your mind and then hold your ground. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. If you're the one initiating the breakup, I just can't do this anymore. If you're the person receiving it, it sucks, but it seems like it sucks worse because you didn't have choice in it. You were told that it was over versus you're the one that made the decision that it was over. So you're like, oh, well, this sucks, because it's two things, but they're the same, right? It sucks for everybody. But the thing is that it sucks right now. But what is that opening you up to? You have all of the experiences you've had, the decisions you've made, and all of the conclusions to the thoughts and all of the commitments that you've had, and it taught you something. But you, if you're not paying attention to it and guiding that or being aware of what you're going through, and you're not just emotionally reacting, but you're proactively seeking out all of the values and the data that comes out of that, right? Which is, well, what did I say that created this? This is common, by the way. This is part of the grievance cycle, is where you go through and you start looking at your own role in it so that you can better understand it, so that potentially you don't have to go through it again in the future. You typically, most people don't qualify that part, though. They're just doing it naturally, and they don't realize they're doing it so they can try to prevent it in the future. No, perhaps I'm wrong on it. Maybe most people do. But in my experience, it seems like more people are kind of shocked by realizing they're doing it without realizing it. Or when they come to realizing that they're doing it, they're like, wow, I didn't know I was doing that. It seems like a natural process. The thing is that if you're not aware of the process, do you fully own it? Versus you're just waiting for it to be emotionally excited for you to bring it back up to the surface. So anyway, all right. So you have got everything you deserve when it comes to every decision you've ever made. The thing is that you are not aware of it, right? Like, if you drank yourself into liver failure, well, you deserve that. You drank yourself into liver failure. But if it is a genetic thing, well, that's outside of this wheelhouse. You would have had that happen no matter what. That's just a genetic shortcoming. That's not something for you to say, well, you know what, Chad, you're completely wrong. Now I'm going to devalue it because I have, the linchpin of this conversation shows that there's a great weakness in it. That's a genetic thing. Now, sure, there's plenty of things that are arguable about that. Like, what if you had less, processed foods, less environmental toxins or burden that it put on your body that your liver would have to deal with? And perhaps you just didn't drink enough water on a regular basis, or you drank wet things that weren't quite water, but you were convinced that it was, right? Like, I drank tea. Okay? It's not water. But if you're taught that it was something that hydrated you, you're going to do it, not realizing that it's not pure hydration. So, a lot to it anyway. The point of it is that you do get everything you deserve. If you take ownership of this and you're like, well, I am getting what I deserve. By the way, I've recently been told that out of anger that I was getting everything that I deserve. Now, I was not the one that was angry. I was the one that was being told that by somebody who was angry. And I agreed with her completely. I am getting everything that I deserve. There is no rebuttal to that. No matter how insignificant the catalyst is, or the event or the thing or the decision or the statement or whatever it was, how insignificant that may appear, my position is that I will own it. Absolutely will own it. Because I have to. As I don't want to hide anymore in life. And I'm getting everything that I deserve. Well, the flip side of that is, one side of the coin is chaos. It's all the undesirables. It's the things that you don't want to have happen. The cool thing about it is that there's the other side of the coin. But you have to take the weight off of that negative first. Because once you take the weight off that negative, then you can realize when the positives and the desirables happen. The things you deserve that you like. The things that you deserve that you actually accomplished that are like, wow, yeah, hell yeah. And it doesn't make you it does not get you to the point of lacking being humble. It's just, yeah, you're there, man. You get it. You got exactly what you deserve in that. Most people default when I say you get everything you deserve. They go to the negative. What do you mean? I'm getting punished because I deserve to be punished? I mean, yeah, ultimately, you are being punished because you deserve to be punished. If you choose that it's a punishment, I choose that it's discipline. Now, there is a difference, by the way. Let me at least define that. Most don't understand this, and this is one of the things that I really pushed aggressively into the conversation. And when I say aggressively, I'm meaning that it was a point that I was not willing to let the people in the conversation walk past or to pass over it. Punishment and discipline, they look the same on the surface to a lot of people. Discipline is the corrective behavior. punishment is something that it often is intended to correct a behavior, but there's no connection to the behavior. It's like finding out your dog went to the bathroom in the house, 10 hours earlier in that day. You come home, you clean it up, and then you punish your dog. Like, don't go to the bathroom in the house. There's a lack of connection between going to the bathroom in the house and then the getting hit with a rolled up newspaper or yelled at or whatever it is that the actual punishment was. But the thing that actually shifted the dog's experience to the undesirable, whatever that may be. It could just be that you raised your voice and that was undesirable for the dog. The dog, bowed its head or, shrunk down to you in some way. You have not connected the discipline to why it was happening. If you want to have effective discipline, make it make sense. Make the connection between what happened and what the corrective pressure is. And now you have discipline. But if you don't make that connection, it's punishment. Punishment doesn't have to have all that either. Punishment could just simply be, I don't care, I don't like you, and I'm going to, take this out on you because I have a justifiable moment to do it. I'm not an advocate for punishment. I am an advocate for discipline, as I feel everyone can use the discipline. We don't require the punishment, but that's because I look at it from the maturity side of things, and I want to and prefer to help people develop. If you want to magnify your growth, start taking ownership of you getting everything you deserve. If you realize that what you're going through is undesirable, well, you'd have to ask yourself a question. Is this a lesson to help me understand that I am not where I want to be? And I have made the declaration or an action to go that direction. And this feedback, this hardship, this challenge that I'm going through is the recognition of me not having the skills or the resources necessary to accomplish this thing. And now I have I wanted to be over there by this time, if there's the time value. But usually if you put something into it, you want to be someplace, right? Whether that someplace is more wealthy or whatever it is, then you have I put that effort in, but I'm not getting there. So then you put in the devaluing it. There's all kinds of things you do, but that's actually going against the lesson. If you go against the lesson, you don't have ownership over it, you're not going to grow very effectively. You'll just grow in the area of avoidance, which is pretty ugly, because I know for myself, if I'm sitting here and I'm considering hiring somebody, and you tell me that you are a victim in a situation, and you have no responsibility over something, say you were fired from work or something, and you're a victim of circumstance, and you have I was culpable for these reasons, and this is what I could have done to make it better. That's an anecdote, by the way. That is an antidote to it. If you tell me that you were fired, well, tell me why and what you learned from it. If you were fired does not mean that I won't hire you. That just means that I need to know why. I'm looking for you to take responsibility, which means that you're actually looking for the discipline. If you don't take the responsibility, you talk about it like it was a punishment of some sort. It was an unfair punishment. Pretty much all punishments are pretty much unfair, but discipline is the thing that is a fair version of punishment, if you will. Because discipline's to change you in a way that gets you more it creates more efficiency towards whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. That's what discipline's intended to do. It makes you better at stuff. All right. So if you can take responsibility for the things in life, you will get more of the desirable sides of what you feel, what you actually you deserve. If you catch yourself saying life isn't fair, and that's a negative to you, I encourage you to look at life as actually incredible. It is very unfair, and that is your benefit. That is your advantage. It's for you to figure out how to make that work. When you take responsibility like I'm discussing now, it will amaze you by how effective it can be. So I'll go through a few of the things here that are you get what you deserve Because you really will. You get everything you deserve. It's just you may not want to accept it. All right. One of those, one of the things that is going to stop you from really getting the benefit of the lesson out of things is trying to game the system. That's willful when you're doing something that's, vice driven. If you're trying to convince people that you're doing the right thing, but you're not, you could be trying to game the system. Well, I didn't exactly not tell you, but I didn't tell you. And that just means that, that's on you for not realizing it. Well, that could be trying to game the system, right? It's also kind of gaslighting. But that's still all within the same thing. It's intentional to manipulate to some degree. So the willful side, gaming the system. The unintended side, making mistakes. We make mistakes. It's if you own it. If you don't own the mistake, well, you're not going to get a lot of resources from your community, because your community will eventually be like, look, you need to own these mistakes. It's not making you any benefit. It's not giving you any benefit by not doing it. So making mistakes is not a bad thing. It's just, what do you do with it? Own those mistakes and you will go a lot further. False prophet. I love this one. False prophet in this is the virtue bender. When you're dealing with doing the right thing, and the right thing is the thing that you need to do because that'll give you more of what you deserve, the better things in life, creating a powerful life. If you're a false prophet in the whole virtue direction, right, you're not going to get the outcome that you think you're going to get. You'll convince yourself that you are deserving of more, but the people that are experiencing you will have access to the opportunity of thinking that you are not a good person, because all it takes is just somebody to catch on to it and then start telling other people how to identify it, and before you know it, we all know you're a fraud because you were trying to use virtue, but you were manipulating it so that you can use virtue in your favor but not to actually benefit other people. So the false prophet. Time delayed virtue. Huh. God, this one's the last two are I am incredibly responsible for, at least in my history. I choose not to go that route anymore, and I regularly look for when I try to do that without realizing it, so I can catch it and reprogram it or redevelop it, repurpose that type of thinking. But time delayed virtue, I have rationalized, and I have admitted to these things in the past, by the way, and I'll do it again with this one as well. The majority of the relationships I've had in my adult life have been affairs. They have been with married women. This is not a brag. This is a confession of a sin. This is a confession of multiple sins. I've learned a lot in this. This is also why I released a video that I am not a good man. It's not that I'm a horrible man. It's that I'm not a good man and not realizing it's all about the immediate, instantaneous, more so you can smart rat your way right into it. You can smart your way in. You can be, as devoted to virtue as you want to express yourself to be. But the reality is in your actions. And look, we're all practicing this thing called life. So when it comes to this, I have made it make sense to me in the past for the time delay virtue. It will make more sense later. Yeah. It's not like it right now. Obviously you don't have enough information, but whenever I give you more, or time gives it to you, then you'll have a better understanding of how I'm being virtuous. One of Actually, a couple of the affairs, I had rationalized that if it were not me, somebody else had been involved, and that other person could have been more of a homewrecker, could have had the intention to take that person away from their marriage, more so than just the sexual and intimate side of things, but actually remove them or have them removed from their marriage. Because why not own this person since they're involved with me in some way, and my emotions say that it's the right thing to do. Not to say that that has not been one of my, motives, and one of them in particular that was a huge life lesson. Again, we develop however we develop. our structure in our society has gotten to the point that we virtue bend so much. It's just, we're doing the right thing, but really when you step outside of it, you're like, the hell, that's the right thing. That's effed up, man. You're doing, like, you're not the good guy here. That's a real solid realization when you can get yourself there. Oh, this is just me being very direct and honest about this. So the time delayed virtue is, you know what? In time, you'll realize, as long as, so long as nobody else is involved, that relationship can continue to be maintained. Now, when I talk about that, there are a lot of people that are just in the wrong type of relationship. That does not mean ethical non-monogamy. That does not mean swingers. That does not mean open marriage or monogamous. They may be in the wrong relationship because the person that they're with, they committed to at a younger stage before they had the goals that they have in life, or at least the clarity of the goals they have in life. And therefore, they committed to things that they just can't live up to because that was what they could live up to when they were 18 or 20 or however old they were when they got married. But then life started to happen to them. They started to get different experiences. And from that, they got a different understanding about who they were. And their partner was not privy to all of that because they didn't have the power couple relationship. They had the relationship of convenience or the relationship of tradition, but not the power relationship. So they weren't growing together. They were just doing things that were expected together, which is incredibly common, actually. Unfortunately, we'll do a lot better as we get power relationships or power couples more in the forefront of our opportunity for the dating world, or what we could do with our current relationship or relationships. So, but just being in the wrong ones. There's the virtue bending was in that as well, because it was, it's better me than somebody else. Now, granted, I know of many people that their maturity was so low when they went through the hardships of the relationship, they did things that they would not do otherwise. Like, from, stalking to, creating hardships for the other person just simply because, like letting the air out of their tires so they couldn't drive to work the next day without the inconvenience of airing up their tires. Just pretty wild things that people have done. Now I have not done any of those, by the way. I have no interest in causing harm like that. But I do know of people that have. One instance several years ago was a gentleman that was actually, he even called the girl's work to try to get her fired by telling her boss all kinds of things that weren't true, and just out of nowhere. Also deflated all 4 tires in her car so she couldn't get to work on time. And then that same day, to add insult to injury, he made a call while she was late for work about why she was late for work. And it had to do with her being drunk before getting to work. There was all kinds of things, so she had to prove that she wasn't drunk when she got there. And it was a lot of stuff. He was just trying to cause her harm and hardship. Now, mind you, that person also would be something that, again, I'm not clinical, I can't diagnose anybody, but I have a high level of curiosity and I read a lot, and I would definitely say he has quite a few narcissistic traits, to the point that he probably would be defined by being a narcissist. And I mean that by a clinical sense, not just by a colloquial sense, because everybody thinks that they have psychology in their background. They can start making those claims. But again, that's the trait values that my curiosity has led me to understanding. So now, virtue bending and the false prophet, time delayed virtue, and the BS PhD. Oh man, there's educations out there that refer to that as a smart rat. So the BS PhD is it sounds really good. It sounds great. It's got a lot of logic in it, but I've just concocted this thing to seem more intelligent than it really is, or that I actually have interest in utilizing it as. I just want to use this as a mirage so that you go, well, it sounds smart enough, you must actually know more, so therefore I'll grant you more. And it gives opportunity for people to really take advantage of the situation there with the BS PhD. So, outsmarting or sophisticated virtue, BS PhD. Outsmarting yourself and others, and for the purpose of just not being found out that you're full of shit. And then the sophisticated virtue still being the same thing. It's just I'm going to make it sound really good and complex and sophisticated because I can articulate the situation in such a way. I've done that as well in my history. I have chosen that I don't want that because I want everything to be practical. And I do speak about complicated things or sophisticated things, but my intention is always to truly come to the virtuous reality of it. So, uh, with that, again, I'm not out to diminish much of anything other than just take full responsibility for this. I am not the avatar of absolute virtue. I'm working on it. There were a lot of things that were just in the foundation of my development that I was not aware of as I learned them, and then they've been layered into the foundation of who I am that has less than virtue designed in it. My father was, he loved women. His marriage to my mother was one that was supposed to be monogamous. He was not that. So he did lie, and he had a lot of things that had that, and I had those early exposures. So that's what I mean by having that stuff built into the foundation. I choose not to become that, and I know that my father, had he actually understood things like the Maturity Project as a whole, he would not have actually taken that route either. So he's part of the totem pole of why this thing even exists. Same thing with my brother Adam, being that he had cerebral palsy and he was bedridden, and so he was stricken to a bed and he couldn't physically get around and do things. So he is in part the avatar of the totem for the physical body. So there's a lot of different people that represent areas in that, the totem of the 8 different areas, the totem pole for the 8 different areas of maturity. So, but I want to express all of this with love. I am out to try to give different insights in such a way that it can free you up from the stickiness of the situation you're currently going through, or what you keep repeating, or the parts of your life that you deny yourself because you don't know how to do something. You can't see how to get past the problem that you've had in the past, and you don't want to get that problem active right now. You either don't want to deal with it, or you don't have the resource bandwidth to deal with it. That's Pandora's Box, by the way. I do have episodes previously that I talk about Pandora's Box, and they're well worth watching. But my goal is, look, I'm not going to sit in the stadium, man. I'm not going to sit in the stands and watch people go through the hardships of life and criticize them over the hardships they're going through and say that they should be better about this because I know better. I'm not doing that. I'm not, armchair quarterbacking this thing. This education has been put together and is being designed because I don't want to sit there. I don't care your political affiliation. I don't care your gender preferences and your sexuality. I don't care about any of those things. I care about the fact that there's 8 different areas of maturity, and if you had access to all of those in a way you can mature yourself, you would have such an fulfilling life, and you would not be stricken by all the vice-driven things, like, substance abuse or treating people like objects instead of people. So that's a sacrifice of community, right? You would not put the sacrifice of all 8 of the areas or any of the 8 of the areas on the altar to try to give you something else. That is a sacrifice that you make to try to accomplish something else. You don't have to sacrifice things in your life. You just know where to put them in the priority for growth at that time. That's what the Maturity Project's about. When you're going through college, well, you've got a lot of experiences to have, but the academics of it, the intelligence, the cognitive aspects, that's the 3rd area of maturity, that is on the higher end of the priority because you're there in college to learn. So then you have your sexuality that's open and there because you've just left your parents, likely, right? And you're experiencing the freedom of being an adult away from people. So the anonymous values from your history, they're not following you there, and you can demonstrate yourself however you want to when you go back to them. But you have a new environment and a new community to develop yourself in. You have these different areas of maturity that will show up, but the highest priority is that, hey, you're doing that for your career. So you have business, you have finance, and you have your community, and you have your cognitive development, so your intelligences. You have your emotions that are there, your sexuality, whether you find a sense of purpose or not when you're in college. And the physical body could, on average, I'd say there's a pretty decent amount of people that forget about that. They may get into substance abuse and taking steroids or whatever performance enhancing drugs in order to get the body to look a certain way so they can get more attention. But the health values are sacrificed for that because it's typically not what they're focusing on. I'm healthy. I have not been sick. I drink until late. I get up early. I do drugs, whatever it is. And then you go through all of that and you're like, maybe I need to make it to class today. But you're a husk of who you are when you get there. Did you get everything you could out of college? Well, it's the teeter-totter, man. It's the scales. You got a little more community. You got more of the fun side of it. So you got some emotional values out of it. But you're missing the greater point, which is the thing that you need to learn in order to be a better employee or business owner. And you get out of college, but you're missing it because the other things have given you the opportunity to. Scales, man. It's just the areas of priority. So we go through this, what's virtuous and what is not virtuous. Well, look, you get everything you deserve. If you want more of the desirable, it's going to have a lot of suck associated with that, because you got to do the work and you got to go through the hardships and you have to make amends for the slights of your past, right? The vice-driven behaviors of your past, you've got to make amends to those things, and you'll come up with a better outcome. If you want the better side of the coin, you have to own who you have been, but you will overcome it and you will come up with a better outcome. You just have to do the work. So that's what the Maturity Project is about. You're going to get everything you deserve. Take the genetics out of it. I would encourage you not to have the God concept that God wanted you to be this way kind of thing. You want to be able to just say, hey, I got complete ownership over who I am. Now, that does not take away from the God concepts and that kind of thing, because, they do tell you that your temple is, your body is your temple. You have free will. Those things give you the autonomy, the choice-making options. So by you making the better choices to develop yourself more virtuously. By the way, being virtuous does not mean not having fun. It's the same thing as being mature. And people are like, well, if I'm mature, then I can't have fun playing. Like, yeah, you can. Absolutely you can. On the other side of it is the only thing you lose by maturing when it comes to play is the insecurities that take you out of playing. That's it. So you don't have to worry about that. You're going to have fun. As Jordan Peterson says, and he's not the only one, but he does say that, you're never going to get out of what you put into this. If you think you're getting away with something, you're foolish. No matter what it is, it will catch up to you. My life experiences is exactly that. Some of those things will never be caught up to by the other person, but I have to bear the weight of that truth. Because some of these people aren't alive anymore that have had the experiences with me in my life. There are family members that may, have access to that information at some point in time, but it's very unlikely. It's just that I carry the weight. If you want to have a cleaner conscience, you have to start taking responsibility for things. So the more responsible you are, the better the results on what you deserve, because you're going to have more of that side of the coin that shows up. But it also comes with the ownership of accomplishing it. So you're not stuck with the idea that, oh, I got this like a lottery winning chance, where you don't value it the same as if you worked for it. Because if you work for it, I promise you're going to value it differently than if it was just given to you. So you get everything you deserve. The things that you take for granted will be there to remind you that you take it for granted, and you're going to get, you may lose what you deserve in that, because you deserve to lose it because you didn't value it, and now you have to have that challenge come up, so it teaches you. It's time to learn that. So we get everything we deserve in life. Okay? Again, genetics, and if you got to use a concept, again, I'm also, if you were to put it out there, I'm what you would call a Jefferson Christian, so I'm not necessarily religious. I am a Reformed atheist. I've spent a lot of time with that, and I was definitely a guy that religious people did not want to debate back in the day, because they looked for, hypocrisy and all the rest of that stuff, logic to fight it, or, just to highlight the hypocrisy. And now that I am no longer in that camp, I'm the guy you're going to want to have on your side whenever people are using that method, because I understand what's going on and how to help that person come to a better understanding in themselves. So, but I don't have Jefferson Christians. We don't have the spiritual belief of an anthropomorphic human in the sky or being in the sky. that's making these judgments, but I'm not against that either. And I'm not arrogant enough to say it doesn't exist. I am working with what I can create the best responsibility with, and that if that thing does exist and that entity does, it would see that I was choosing virtuous directions and intending to do the best good for all. That's also why of biblical characters in the stories of the Bible, I best align with Moses. I intend to bring plenty of people to the promised land, to their heaven in my lifetime, but I won't join them in their heaven. I'll help get them there, but mine requires that I get a bunch of people there. That's the only way I can actually achieve mine. So the Maturity Project is the method that I plan to do it. So this is the journey of going to the desert, man, leaving Egypt. It's a hardship process, but I do it with love in my heart. I want the best for all of you. But I can't do it for you. But I'm here to help. And a lot of that is just through the insights. So if you got a message to share, put it in the comment section. Be a part of the community. Remember, you're the cavalry too. So they are not coming because it's us. So nobody's coming to save us. It's us. We gotta save ourselves, right? Path to hell is paved with good intentions. People on this that are on this journey, our job is to reduce the path to hell. Our job is to come up with the best of the best for everybody. But there's work that's associated with that. It's not just a given thing. There's no entitlement in this process. This is a grind, but you get to own it. There's another thing that I'll give you is that, to me, I've always told people I don't want to win the lottery. I want to create the wealth from my actions because I can recreate it if I'm ever to lose it. But if I were to win the lottery, I've got to wait for the chance to show up again. Now, I'm not getting into you can invest money and all the rest of that stuff after you win the lottery. I mean, the method that it took to accumulate that money is what I'm more interested in. And it's not chance that I'm after. I'm after the work and the structure and the strategy that actually makes that successful. I'm out to also teach that. And if every area of fulfillment in life, as this education continues to unfold, it will have other people involved that are more mature in each one of the areas than I am. And their intention is to come in and to help spread that wealth of knowledge and the experience to help them grow, but also help other people grow in those areas. So it's a Maturity Project. So I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, and this is the Maturity Project, the show. And if you haven't already, subscribed to the channel, join the community, comment in the comment section. Let's get after this, okay? Let's get up to something. Let's get up to it together. We are going to grow through what we go through, right? We already are. And if you're not, join in, all right? If you have anything, if you want one of the documents, as far as the founding documents or the foundation stuff, just the intros, shoot me over an email. I'll get you the 8 different areas of maturity. You can send that to yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. That is YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com, and I'll send you back over the documents that just have that for you, okay? If you have something specific you're working on and you'd like to actually give me some comments for the show and you don't do it in the comment section, but you'd like to send that over an email, questions or comments, you can send that to the same email address. That's YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com, okay? We'll talk to you soon. All right, let's get up to some stuff together. All right, let's go.